Here's another chart that kind of shows you how it's going to happen. So this is the highest intelligence on Earth, right? I'm assuming this is like from the beginning of time. So slowly living forms are getting smarter, smarter, smarter. And here's the tripwire. This is where we create something like self-improving AI and whoosh, it's a vertical line.
Hello and welcome to Conflicted. I'm conflicted. Are you? Yes or no? Today we're going to be talking about one of the most horrific, scary, frightening things to ever affect humankind on Earth. Today we are talking about OpenAI, AGI, and the most frightening thing to ever encompass the human race, ASI. OpenAI is ChatGPT, for example. AGI is the current images you're seeing, the animation of video from an image, which is frightening as hell because that image is now being brought to life of a still. Animated, scenes put in the background, environment put around, made to come to life. That is AGI. AGI, you ask? Artificial General Intelligence. We have it as we speak. It's not 10, 20, 30, 40 years off into the future still. It is in 2024 and it is right now. Then we are talking about ASI, Artificial Super Intelligence. This is sentient AI by 2026. Its initial first implementation, maybe in a lab, maybe in a scientific theatre of study, but it is still being applied in application in 2026. With the exponential growth of these technologies in the lifespan of 10 years to now, to what we are now experiencing in 2024, quite frankly, existentially frightening to my very bones. I've been in IT for over 20 years. I've also been a college educator, teaching a range of different subject matter to students who have been failed by the education system, failed by business, failed by the human resources department, and not given the opportunity to get the foot up that they were promised when they first got the job. Guess what? My job is now going to be obsolete, like all of yours will soon as well. We are at the precipice of change which is irrefutable, unstoppable, and undeniable at this stage. In this video, you will need to watch every single moment of it. This is not a video for entertainment purposes. This is a purely fact-based, purely educational-based, current affairs video of something that actually matters in the world and something that is going to directly affect your personal life from 2026 into the future. Please stick around, watch the entire video. Tell me your feelings in the comments. Feedback. Because for me, being an IT person and an educator, I saw this happening a long time ago, but even I couldn't predict it would happen this goddamn quickly. Welcome to the video.
There's this expression, the second half of the chessboard. Now, the story about the second half of the chessboard, that the inventor of chess presented his brilliant creation to a grateful Indian king. The king asked what was the desired reward. The inventor of chess asked for something very simple, for a grain of rice to be placed on the first square, then double that amount on the second square, and so until every square was covered. So basically it goes 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, etc., doubling each and every single time. Now, this might not seem like a lot, it's just a few grains of rice. But where this exponential growth, where this compounding gets really hairy, is in the second half of the chessboard. It's like 1,000 times how much rice is produced in the world like today in modern times. But the point is, it was way above anything that the king could have paid. The point of all this is that AI progress is entering the second half of the chessboard. And it gets really hard to predict what that looks like and how it will unfold. A lot of people are asking, when will AGI be here? I don't like that question. Here's why. This was from the blog Wait But Why from 2015, so a while ago. And it had this excellent demonstration of how AI would look like when it arrived. So just pretend that sign says AGI. And this is the AGI train station, right? And here everybody standing around wondering, when will the AGI train get here? Will it be here in 7 months or 12 months or 5 years? Because we're noticing some signs that it's coming. Hey, look, AGI is arriving, right? We're seeing it off in the distance yonder. So when is it going to pull into the station so that we can greet it and see what it looks like? Well, here's the thing. It's coming fast. And now it's gone. Did you miss it? Here's another chart that kind of shows you how it's going to happen. So this is the highest intelligence on Earth, right? I'm assuming this is like from the beginning of time. So slowly living forms are getting smarter, smarter, smarter. And here's the tripwire. This is where we create something like self-improving AI and whoosh, it's a vertical line. So Tim Urban was the person that runs this blog, Wait But Why. I believe he has a book out now. Apparently Elon Musk is a big fan of this blog. He's tweeted about it in the past. And so keep in mind, so this blog post is from 2015, I believe, right around the time that OpenAI was just opening its doors and being mocked for working on AGI, building AGI. And so back then, the median expert prediction for AGI was 2040. And ASI, artificial superintelligence, was 2060. Here's Kathy Wood of ARK Invest, along with some of her analysts that work on this stuff. This is what they've predicted. So here's the chart of when experts believe we will achieve general artificial intelligence, and how that changed. In 2019, we thought it was 50 years away. A year later, 34 years away. A year later, 18 years away. A year later, we thought it was 8 years away. And so based on this, their forecast was that, by 2030, about 6 years from now, we're going to have AGI. However, progress was so much faster that there was a forecast error. And assuming that it continues in this way, we're going to have AGI by 2026, 2 years from now. And all the other papers that we covered here kind of say the same thing. All of the experts keep getting surprised by the rapid acceleration of AI. So 7 years ago, Sam Altman was mocked for saying they're building AGI. Now it's not crazy to say that it's going to be here soon. When exactly? Well, it doesn't matter. This is us, and the next moment it'll pass whatever metric we choose to measure AGI by. Before the end of the video, I'll even show you why there's a chance that it has already been achieved. It just hasn't been distributed. In my previous video, we went over something that Dr. Jim Fan, the senior research scientist at NVIDIA, what he said. The point was that this video generation model, it's learning physics. Its ability to simulate physics is an emergent property. As we put in more data and we scale up the resources, these abilities emerge, they start existing. More data and more compute translates into these digital brains being able to sort of implicitly acquire new skills. They learn to do stuff that we don't teach it. And whenever I post a video talking about this, there's always a vocal minority in the comment section yelling that this can't possibly be true, and we're just imagining things, none of this is happening, etc. But it is rapidly becoming the view that more and more people have. OpenAI is talking about it more openly. They're not talking about Sora as a little video generator or a picture generator. They're talking about it as a world simulator. They're saying this is a promising path towards building general purpose simulators of the physical world. Sora serves as a foundation for models that can understand and simulate the real world, a capability we believe will be an important milestone for achieving AGI. Now let's pivot to OpenAI for just a second here. How is OpenAI building AGI? Is ChatGPT the thing that will become AGI? Is Sora the thing that will become AGI? Well, not quite. Think of AGI and eventually ASI, the super intelligent form of AGI, as a collection of pieces, each with its own sort of power and abilities, but when put together, become AGI, the big thing. So what are those pieces? Well, we now know Sora, the world simulator. We know ChatGPT, the fastest growing app of all time, that can now see, hear, and speak, and is in and of itself a powerful form of AI. What are the other pieces? Well, one of them is agents. Sam Altman kind of hinted at this in the developer conference in November. Actually, I don't know if he was hinting at that. It was kind of vague, but I think myself and a lot of other people assumed that's what he was talking about, autonomous AI agents. But these new leaks kind of confirmed that we were all kind of right in assuming that, because it seems like OpenAI is rapidly moving towards developing autonomous AI agents. So Sam Altman has privately called the next iteration of ChatGPT a super smart personal assistant for work. That agent will take over people's computers and basically do a lot of the tasks for them. It will be like an operating system that does things for you. So instead of clicking on things or typing something in, you will communicate with the agent in, whatever form that takes, whether voice or typing, and it will then go and do the things that you request it to do. And it'll be able to do it autonomously. We've tested a few of these AI agents on this channel. You give it some high-level task, it thinks about it, breaks it up into subtasks, and then starts carrying those out. And OpenAI isn't the only one. Google CEO Sundar Pichai said the latest technology allows us to act more like an agent over time. There are other companies that are doing the same thing. The Rabbit R1 device is doing something similar. There's Multion, which we've covered here. There's Open Interpreter. There's Self-Operating Computer, I believe it's called. There's a bunch of them that are trying to do this. All right, so we have ChatGPT, we have Sora, we have agents. What else is there? Well, OpenAI develops a web search product in challenge to Google. So we're not sure if that search product is separate from ChatGPT or part of ChatGPT. So let's say search is the left leg of the forbidden one, or AGI, What else is there? Well, the massive amount of chips, of AI chips, of compute, of GPUs or TPUs, or whatever other processors that we need to train these AI models and run inference. Inference meaning getting the outputs, the predictions that we're looking for. So Altman has already had a lot of interest from Middle East funds, as well as a lot of the Chinese money that flowed into it. The US government, one of the agencies, did, I believe, canceled and reversed one of the deals that they've had for chips made by Rain Neuromorphic. That was in San Francisco. But it looks like Sam Altman is not giving up. So now he's asking the Biden administration for approval. So Sam Altman it said that he's looking for $7 trillion funding to build the infrastructure to produce these chips that are needed. So that's $7 trillion in funding. Actually, scratch that. It's now 8. But the point is, we need a lot of money to build these factories to produce the required amount of chips that'll be able to power everything that we want AGI to do. Now, once we have all the pieces in place, once we have the GPT and the Sora and the DALL-E and the search and the autonomous agents and all the chips, and apparently there's also a music/sound generation thing that's not released yet, but that's coming soon. I actually got early access to this Sora Plus audio model, and here's some early results. So this is 2 golden retrievers podcasting on top of a mountain. Here's what that sounds like. So I gotta say, not bad. I expect them to start climbing the iTunes podcasting rankings very rapidly. But the point that I'm trying to make is this thing that we think of as AGI is likely going to be a multi-part thing, each with its own effects, each with its own strengths, that when combined becomes this thing that is now able to do most of human jobs. For example, coding assistants are already helping coders work faster, replacing some of the work they have to do. Google quietly launches internal AI model named Goose to help employees write code faster, leaked documents show. So models like GPT will help coding. If you've played around with Code Interpreter, aka Advanced Data Analytics, a lot of that is going to really help with, well, data analytics. A lot of things that we used to have analysts for can now be done with a few sentences. They can go through Excel sheets, organize it how you want to, display various charts, etc. A lot of the coding jobs, a lot of the data analysis jobs, a lot of the writing jobs, like that part replaces a lot of the people that's doing that sort of work. Next, Sora. Sora produces videos and images, etc. So think about, who does that displace? What kind of skills and people and work environments does that displace? So take a look at something like this. So let's say you wanted to shoot something in Tokyo. What do? Well, you had to fly over there or hire somebody on location to shoot. You would need the actors, the editors, the photographers / camera operators, but not only that, because you also need all the people that produce the equipment, the people that produce the cameras, the lighting equipment, the microphones, the storage discs. For things like this, you needed to hire these special effects creators for movies so they can help you produce visually stunning effects like this. If you wanted to do something like this, that's macro photography. This is not really macro photography. There's another better example where it's like zoomed in on someone's eye. You know, you need special lenses for that, special glass that has to be made to create those lenses. You need people to be able to shoot that kind of detail, that macro photography. If we're able to just generate images that are similar to that, all those jobs are affected. The next part is agents, and agents are going to be everything that you need to, that's going to be kind of like your assistants. Anything you need them to answer emails or schedule appointments, do your research online for you, complete whatever task you need with Excel, just anything where you need stuff actually done in the digital world, right? And potentially, you know, at some point also over the phone. So OpenAI has their Whisper model. That's another part of this. So when you talk to it, it's able to transcribe what you're saying to words. So then GPT-4 can then understand what you're saying. So if you wanted your agent to call a restaurant and, for example, make a reservation for you, you know, that would be something like an agent plus GPT, right? ChatGPT plus something like Whisper that's able to transcribe it. And then right now we'd have to use 11 labs to make the voice, right? To make it sound like a human being is saying. So as ChatGPT outputs the text, it gets transcribed into an AI voice. But again, as I've mentioned before, it sounds like OpenAI has that cooking behind the scenes, that voice model, that audio model. The preview that I gave you, that was just me breathing into a microphone. I hope that was, I hope that comes across okay. And of course, the chips, the GPUs that are needed, that's like the last piece. I don't even know if that's necessarily like, you would think of that as a piece of AGI, or does that just increase the scale? But the point is this, here's how stuff scales when we increase the compute. From just nonsense, you know, if we increase it 4x, it's better. I mean, that's looking pretty good, to really lifelike when you bump it up even further. Just giving it more processing power, more chips, more compute. That by itself scales up incredibly effective. So I guess computer chips, you could think of it as a part of it, or more just like the thing that helps it scale, depending on how you want to think about this. But the point is, when you have all these little pieces on the board together, the thing that emerges, the thing that starts slowly floating through the portal, well, that's AGI. That's the thing that will be able to think, to learn, to do, to produce images and voices and understand all the images and videos that you give it, understand what you mean when you say things. So when is that coming? When are we going to have that? So in terms of answering the question, when will we have AGI? Whoops, did you miss it? Because if OpenAI had GPT-4 in July 2022, it has been compounding since, because keep in mind, the GPUs have improved drastically since then. The funding has improved, the technology, the research, everything has improved. And, you know, assuming they've been compounding this whole time, dropping more and more grains of rice on the board, and we're well into that second half of the chessboard, well, maybe the thing is already here. The AGI is here. It's just not distributed yet. It's just not released yet. And that's why Sam Altman talks about, you know, staggering the release, releasing it incrementally, not all at once. Some of the other OpenAI employees have also mentioned the same thing. They want to give people a preview of what's coming to let everybody kind of adjust and figure out how they're going to go about it. Things are about to get nutty. Exactly what this means is kind of hard to predict. Like I always say, I'm fairly optimistic about this whole AGI thing in the long term. It will be awesome for humanity in the long term, but in the short term, it might get bumpy. We might have to reconsider some things, change how things function. We have to learn to think from first principles. Whatever inertia and momentum that humanity has achieved, we might have to like say, wait, rethink how all of this works if AGI exists. How do we think about jobs, money, the economy? How do we think about the things that we see in video and images and text? How do we think about human achievement and a sense of self-worth? Like, what's our purpose in life if machines can do most things better? I know that scares a lot of people. I see a lot of people that are very smart, very talented, that are scared because I guess they believe that some of that advantage that they have over other people, that it will get erased. Then they mention once AI starts to arrive, growth will be extremely rapid. The changes that are coming are unstoppable. If we embrace them and plan for them, we can use them to create a much fairer, happier, and more prosperous society. The future can be almost unimaginably great. I'm just saying that all the people that are worried about AI, all the people that are very optimistic about AI, we need to maybe, figure it out and reach some sort of a consensus. We should probably talk about what we want. It's kind of an important decision that's being made, and I'm not 100% sure who's making it.
This is what AGI means, is that humans will become largely economically and intellectually obsolete in terms of productivity. So, this, like I said, this realization hit me like a ton of bricks. It made me feel like we're living on borrowed time. Live, die, sick, whether you quit, retire. I was always irrelevant. And there's actually some freedom in that. And a lot of humility too. Just like, oh, okay, I'm just one out of 8 billion. Great. But then on the other side of recognizing, hey, if we're all about to become intellectually and economically irrelevant, and the risks and downsides hit me at a very emotional, like visceral level. And there are a lot of coping mechanisms out there. As I mentioned, there's a lot of denialism. There's a lot of sarcasm. That was what I was guilty of. There's a lot of fear. There's also a lot of hope. A lot of people cope with hope. There's also just a tremendous amount of skepticism and ignorance out there. Most CEOs are in a wait-and-see approach. And this is to be expected, and this is true of all technological changes. And it follows a natural distribution or a bell curve, where you've got early adopters, you've got late adopters. There's also a huge fear of job loss. And so there was an interesting study that I saw recently that showed that the more that employees use AI tools, the more they start to fear for their jobs. And basically the way that it works is, if you understand that the AI is doing most of your cognitive heavy lifting, then all you need is an AI to replace you to steer the other AIs. And that's actually pretty much how it works. The more that you use AI to do your job, the more that activity can be recorded and observed. And then it's like, oh, well, we can actually automate that. And you might think that it requires a significant amount of judgment in order to, switch between those tasks and know what plugs into what. But you're just a cog in a machine, and the company wants to get rid of you because you're expensive to employ. So, and then there's also this really big inconsistency with messaging. So if you do a Google search, you say like, how many people have been laid off to AI? There is no data on this. And you'll occasionally see like, to date, only 4,000 people have been laid off because of AI. It's like, that is absolute baloney. There have been tens of thousands of layoffs caused by AI. There's basically 3 reasons. One is the Overton window, which is we weren't even allowed to talk about AGI publicly until ChatGPT came out. But then there's entrenched power structures. And so one of the entrenched power structures is the government. And I'm not a big time conspiracy theorist, but I have been studying rhetoric, narratives, and propaganda, and this is just the way things work. The government wants to push AI. Well, the way that you push AI is you downplay its risks. And we've seen this, the government always downplays inflation, for instance. So just replace inflation with AI. That's exactly what they're doing right there. They're like, no, it's not that bad. It's not that big a deal, but we want to double down on it. And so the question is why? The primary reason is geopolitical advantages.
So I woke up today to this. Elon Musk is suing Sam Altman and like everyone connected to OpenAI. As you'll see, Microsoft is also indirectly involved. Somebody on Twitter said this might be the biggest lawsuit ever, and it might just be. I read through some of it, and even for the internet, it's pretty shocking. Here's the important thing to understand, I think. Elon Musk, we'll talk about why I think he's doing it, but in the meantime, what I think he wants is he wants you to watch this play out. This is the opening act. He is demanding a jury trial. This is kind of what you want when you want to get some eyes on this thing. But as we read this, keep this in mind. Elon Musk wants you to see something. Keep in mind, Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion. He knows the value of attention. So this is a multi-act play, and this is setting the stage. Let's get started. And it starts with the risk of artificial general intelligence, AGI. So the United States gradually shifted from a labor-based economy to primarily a human knowledge-based economy. And now there's a different shift that's underway. It's the shift from human intelligence to AI, artificial intelligence. He briefly goes through the history of AI. So they're saying how a while back AI could show superhuman performance on certain specific tasks, like finding the fastest path through a network of roads. Later, Deep Blue AI beating Garry Kasparov in chess, but they were one-trick ponies. Their intelligence was not general. They didn't have general intelligence. In the early aughts, as it's called, 2000, 2010, that period, an older algorithm called deep learning became practical to implement because of the advances in hardware. This caused an almost overnight revolution. So this is sort of the AI, the general purpose AI, kind of the AI that we talk about today. This is kind of where it started. So it's a move from single purpose AI to more learning AI, general purpose AI. It was different because this AI learns each task from training examples, essentially programming themselves. This is still the thing that I think a lot of people that aren't really following along maybe don't truly understand. They still think that this AI it's programmed, that with something like ChatGPT, there's a code that controls what ChatGPT says. And there is some code, but a lot of the progress is coming from deep learning, training on data, neural networks, etc. And as this became more increasingly sophisticated, more and more people set their sights on AGI, artificial general intelligence. And AGI is a general purpose artificial intelligence system that can do a lot of different tasks like a human. So it's the general intelligence of a human in machine form. And Mr. Musk believes that AGI poses a grave threat to humanity, perhaps the greatest existential threat we face today. If machines are better at any task than we are, then the machines become more economically useful than we are. The future doesn't need us. But where Mr. Musk sees an existential threat in AGI, others see AGI as a source of profit and power. In 2014, Google acquired DeepMind. Somewhere along here is where that sort of curve started to really inflect upwards really, really fast. Maybe DeepMind was somewhere here in 2014. 2017 was Transformers. We see GPT-4. So the progress went from kind of quiet to just what we see today, this really fast, rapid rise. Like that curve is getting steeper. Here they talk about AlphaZero from DeepMind and kind of how it was made. But put a pin in this for a second, because believe it or not, this court filing talks about Q star. So we'll come back to this in just a second. And by the way, I'm not kidding, like they literally say Q star right there. OpenAI is currently developing a model known as Q star. If you missed this whole thing in November, this is kind of like the big deal. This thing took a lot of people, myself included, down a very deep rabbit hole. It's kind of nuts. So the fact that, again, like I said in the beginning, so they're introducing this into the court documents, requesting a jury trial. This is going to get covered in the news. This is going to get covered on, YouTube. More people will become aware of this. This might convince some more people to go forward and maybe talk a little bit more about what happened. There might be some leaks from OpenAI. Just my point here is this is a multi-act play. This is act one. Anyway, so AlphaZero reinforcement learning, we'll come back to this if you don't know what that means. But basically AlphaZero trains itself and it rapidly became the strongest chess playing system in the world. Then he goes on to say, shockingly, these are those shocking bolts in case you're not aware. But shockingly, it was announced that the same program was also the strongest in the world for playing two other extremely difficult games. Anyways, we'll come back to all of this because this is extremely important to understand, but a lot of this ties into what he says later. But the point is that DeepMind found an approach that would gain superhuman levels at various diverse tasks. Chess, shogi, Go, but also, as you'll see, other things in biology, for example, with AlphaFold. And with this DeepMind team, Google immediately catapulted to the front of the race for AGI, which was, if you were kind of following along in that time period post 2014, everyone was convinced that Google was going to be AGI. No one else was really even in the running, or if they were far, far behind. Mr. Musk was deeply troubled by this development, so he gave multiple interviews kind of talking about it. Apparently he had a few conversations with Google's founders where maybe he was a little bit concerned. Some things they said made Elon feel like they weren't taking this as seriously as he was. And Elon believes that in the hands of a closed for-profit company like Google, AGI poses a particularly acute and noxious danger to humanity. If Google developed AGI, that would make competition nearly impossible. So this is enter Altman. So enter Altman, stage left. Mr. Altman purported to share Mr. Musk's concerns over the threat posed by AGI. In 2015, Mr. Altman wrote that the development of superhuman machine intelligence, SMI, is probably the greatest threat to the continued existence of humanity. There are other threats that I think are more certain to happen, but those are unlikely to destroy every human in the universe in the way that SMI would, this superhuman machine intelligence. And so Mr. Altman approached Mr. Musk with a proposal that they join forces to form a nonprofit AI lab. So kind of keep this in mind because this is what a lot of this is about. The initial proposal was a small lab, a research lab, a nonprofit organization, and the mission was to catch up to Google in the race for AGI, but with a different approach, with a different mission. And together with Mr. Brockman, this is the hottest rock band alive, or rather what used to be the core team at OpenAI. So we have Sam Altman, this is Ilya Sutskever, Mira Murati, and Greg Brockman. So together with Mr. Brockman, the three agreed that this new lab would be nonprofit, developing AGI for the benefit of humanity. It would not involve in maximizing shareholder profits. It would be open source, meaning that they would reveal the code, the weights of the neural nets, and as much as they could, basically kept everything out in the open. The only kind of counterbalance to that would be safety considerations, right? So if they wouldn't release anything that could potentially be harmful. But they would not keep this technology closed and secret for commercial reasons. And Mr. Musk named this AI lab OpenAI so that they can compete with and counterbalance the Google/DeepMind in the race for AGI. And this agreement was written in the incorporation documents. It affirmed that all the property was dedicated to the purposes. So basically, this isn't just some conversation they had over coffee. This was in the documents. So Mr. Musk funded the first several years, advising on research directions, and recruited some of the world's leading scientists and engineers to work at this place, including chief scientist Ilya Sutskever, who was probably one of the world's sort of foremost AI researchers at the time and now. Although now, we don't even know where he is. And of course, recruiting for OpenAI, it was a Herculean task, meaning it was very difficult in the face of relentless recruiting efforts by Google/DeepMind, because they just made it rain money on anybody with AI experience. So they're saying that there would be no OpenAI without Mr. Musk's contribution in early leadership, and that Mr. Musk continued to make contributions until September 2020. OpenAI's initial research was in the open, providing everybody access to designs, models, and code. And then this is where we enter the transformers. So kind of the transformer is an architecture for training these neural nets, these AIs. So it was invented by Google 2017. So they're saying the entire community sprung up to kind of help enhance and extend the models that were released by OpenAI. So this was like the open source movement, everybody contributing their knowledge, their work to this shared goal of open source AI. These communities spread to open source grassroots efforts and commercial entities alike. Mr. Altman becomes OpenAI's CEO in 2019. And a year later in 2020, OpenAI entered into an agreement with Microsoft. So notice here, September 22, 2020, and it's saying that Musk continued to make contributions up until September 14, 2020. So it sounds like he's saying they stopped contributing as soon as he found out about the deal with Microsoft. And so OpenAI exclusively licensed GPT-3 to Microsoft. But OpenAI published a detailed paper that made GPT-3 open sourced, so the community was able to create the models themselves. So this, you could kind of say, it followed the structure of that open source AI research lab, sharing their work with everyone. And most critically, and this is very interesting because I think I've never seen anything like this in any other sort of company's founding documents. Like the Microsoft license only applied to OpenAI's pre-AGI technology. Microsoft obtained no rights to AGI. And as you'll see, this is the big thing to understand here. It's the big point of this lawsuit. This paper claims that, as you'll see, OpenAI has AGI. Microsoft obtained no rights to AGI. And if Elon Musk can prove AGI, then all the commercial licenses, all the agreements, all that stuff, it's, I don't know the exact legal terminology, but null and void, off the table, reversed, dissolved. We'll see later, but basically a lot of that just ceases to exist. It goes away. And it was up to OpenAI's non-profit board, not Microsoft, to determine when OpenAI attained AGI. So basically the board had a big red button that they could push saying, all right, we've achieved this. So now that clause in the contract kicks in, they had that power, they had that control. And by the way, Sam Altman getting fired in November of 2023, that whole fiasco, that was them kind of executing that thing that they were supposed to do. I'm not saying I agree with what they did or disagree. I'm not stating my opinion. I'm just saying that's kind of what they were originally put there for. Now, whether or not they were actually trying to do that or there was some shenanigans going on, it's hard to tell. We don't have that visibility into it, but as you'll see, this whole thing gets weirder and weirder. So in March 2024, OpenAI released its most powerful language model yet, the GPT-4. GPT-4 is not just capable of reasoning. It is better at reasoning than the average humans. It scored in the 90th percentile on the Uniform Bar Exam for lawyers. It scored in the 99th percentile on the GRE verbal assessment. It even scored a 77 on the Advanced Sommelier examination, which is this. I'd be curious to see how GPT-4 scored better on that. It's probably just knowledge of wines or I'm not sure, but it did pretty well on that test. And this is where Elon Musk says, okay, this is where Sam Altman really went off script. He caused OpenAI to radically depart from its original mission. GPT-4's internal design was kept and remains a complete secret, except to OpenAI, and on information and belief to Microsoft. Now, I'd be curious to see if there's any data on this. Does Microsoft really know the exact mysteries and secrets to GPT-4? There's a lot of papers that we've read on this channel where they go to great lengths to like replicate other models using the data from GPT-4. And I mean, I have no idea. But the point is, if Microsoft does indeed know a lot of the internal designs of GPT-4, it does seem that a lot of the papers that it's publishing are, I don't know, like all those researchers are lying or obfuscating a little bit. Maybe I get it's possible. But I mean, if I had to guess, I would guess that this partnership gave Microsoft an incredible insider's look into how to like reverse engineer a lot of it. But I doubt that OpenAI just handed everything over to Microsoft. But again, that's just my guess. Take that with a huge grain of salt. I'm just guessing based on kind of the publicly available information. And so it continues, there are no scientific publications describing the design of GPT-4. Instead, there are just press releases bragging about its performance. And as far as we know, this is driven by commercial considerations, not safety. And even though this algorithm was developed by OpenAI using contributions from Elon and other people to benefit the public, GPT-4 is now a de facto Microsoft proprietary algorithm. And this is where it starts getting really, really good. GPT-4 is an AGI algorithm. Now, whether or not you believe that GPT-4 is an AGI algorithm or not, as we covered in the previous video, OpenAI already has trademarks for GPT-5 and GPT-6 and even GPT-7. So let's say this lawsuit can't prove that GPT-4 is AGI, but it's oh so close. As OpenAI releases their next versions of it, maybe there'll be a precedent that's set by this case of what AGI is. I know that might sound silly, but I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility in sort of the US court systems. And I'm not a lawyer, so I apologize if maybe I'm getting some details wrong, but my understanding is certain court cases on new groundbreaking things can set precedent. Precedent is basically where in the future court cases, those court cases can look back and cite that original court case as precedent, saying, hey, here they ruled or they decided that, you know, if a model scores 95% on this test, then it's AGI. This is what they said in that other court case. And that becomes the precedent for future court cases. Then if model clocks in at 96%, then that court case can say, hey, we established precedent in this previous lawsuit. We said 95 and above is AGI. This is 96. Therefore, it's AGI. That may not necessarily make that the law, the rule. It might not win that argument 100%, but it gives it more credibility, more credence. Again, that's my layman's understanding of the US law. It's funny that they continue in this regard. Microsoft's own researchers have publicly stated that. And before I even read this quote, I knew exactly where it's from, because that was one of the first papers that we read on this channel. It was by Microsoft. It was kind of big. It was called Sparks of AGI. And this was, I think, in the abstract in the introduction, saying, given the breadth and depth of GPT-4's capabilities, we believe that it could reasonably be viewed as an early, yet still incomplete, version of an artificial general intelligence system. So they're saying this is kind of proto-AGI. It's sort of the stepping stone to AGI, very close. Moreover, on information and belief, OpenAI is currently developing a model known as Q-Star that has an even stronger claim to AGI. And as noted, Microsoft only has any rights to OpenAI's pre-AGI technology. But for the purposes of this license, so who gets to determine it? Well, it's up to the board to determine whether OpenAI has attained AGI. And a board coup took place in November 2023. All right, so on November 17th, OpenAI, the board fired Mr. Altman after losing confidence in his ability to continue leading OpenAI. So this was kind of a shock to everybody. He gets kicked out. I think Ilya Sutskever knew about it prior. Mira Murati was informed, I think the day before, if I recall correctly, because she was going to step in as the interim CEO. And then so they hop on a call, I guess, Ilya and Sam. I think they used Google Meet or something like that, Google Hangouts, whatever it's called nowadays. And Sam Altman basically gets fired because they quoted somewhere he was not consistently candid with the board. And in a series of stunning developments, that spanning the next several days, Mr. Altman and Mr. Brockman, in concert with Microsoft, exploited Microsoft's significant leverage over OpenAI and forced the resignation of a majority of OpenAI's board members, including chief scientist Ilya Sutskever. Now, I don't know what happened here, but I feel like this goes a lot deeper than is even described. So just really fast, Helen Toner was one of the board members on OpenAI's board. She's the one that is believed to kind of started this whole thing. As far as we know, she was the person that kind of orchestrated all of that. So Ilya Sutskever, who was on the board, again, rumors and hearsay, but it sounds like he initially wasn't going along with it, then flipped, and he was able to tip sort of the balance of power in her direction, so to speak, what she wanted. And she is part of this, organization or group, some people say maybe ideology of effective altruism, the same group or whatever idea that Sam Bankman-Fried belonged to. So the person that committed a lot of fraud in the crypto space. He is now in jail. That's him in prison. And they didn't put him in like the nice prison with the elderly accountants that committed fraud. They put him in look at the picture, in that jail. You kind of have to feel like a little bit bad, I guess, because this can't be good for him. So they chose to make like an example of him, the prosecutor, and then put him there. Didn't pull any punches. So I'm having a hard time finding that article, but we covered it in the video in November. According to some of the leaks out of OpenAI that was taking place at that time, they were saying that the attorney general, the guy that put Sam Bankman-Fried in jail, was calling the board at this time, right, as Microsoft forced the resignation of a majority of OpenAI Inc.'s board members. Right, as this whole thing is happening, I think that AG is calling the board, and they took their lawyers and they had this multi-hour phone call with them or something like that, because they wanted to know why they fired Sam Altman. And then after conferring with their lawyers for several hours, the board comes out and still refuses to expand on what happened, other than he was not consistently candid with the board. So that was their statement, right? And so all these like super powerful people are calling them like, we need some more information, right? Including, the same attorney general that put Sam Bankman-Fried in jail, who was part of Effective Altruism calling Helen Toner, who is part of Effective Altruism, going, hey, like, I mean, I don't know what he was asking, what took place in that call, but that must have been pretty scary. Like, I would be pretty scared if I was in that situation. I'd be like concerned, like, why is that person calling me from New York? They're in San Francisco. Anyways, the board gets kicked out. Mr. Altman is reinstated as the CEO of OpenAI. And so they think that the new board members were handpicked by Mr. Altman and blessed from up and high by Microsoft. The new board members lack substantial AI expertise and are not equipped to, by design, they say, to make a determination of whether OpenAI has attained AGI. Ilya, certainly, I would say he could, right? He's one of the world's leading experts on this stuff. People put a lot of trust in him. It's almost like a meme now. People always ask, what did Ilya see? What did he see in the events leading up to this whole thing that spooked him, that made him change his mind and go against Sam Altman, that got him kicked out of OpenAI? I mean, think about the amount of money that was on the line. So what did he see to make him act this way? And this is where a lot of people are pointing to Q star. What was Q star? What did he see during that time that made him kind of spooked? Because they've all, including Sam Altman, referred to an event that happened where Sam Altman said the veil of ignorance was pulled back and sort of our understanding of the world was pushed forward. There was some big event leading up to this whole thing. We don't know what it is, but this Q star thing was leaked, and a lot of people are thinking, well, it may have been something to do with that. All right, and this is where we get into Q star. A lawyer wrote this, but the content must have been generated by Elon Musk. This is like from him, maybe not exactly his words, but all the ideas are his as far as we know. The limitation of GPT is that it can't backtrack. So you know how in chess sometimes you make a move, but you keep your fingers on the chess piece so you can kind of see what the board now looks like. And then if you see that, oops, I made a mistake, maybe there was a piece attacking you that you didn't realize was there, you kind of backtrack and you put the piece back. So GPTs can't do that. Once they start generating the response, they will do that even if that results in a mistake. And this is a problem because, you know, for example, in path and maze finding, AI must be able to find the right path despite the existence of dead ends along the way. The standard algorithm to perform this is called A star. So again, this has been around for a while. This is kind of like, it is known, right? We knew about this one. And then Reuters has reported that OpenAI is developing a secretive algorithm called the Q star. So this was a leak out of OpenAI that seemed to have been confirmed by Sam Altman. Because when reporters directly asked him, hey, what is this Q star thing? He said, well, you know, he can't say anything about it, but he said it's an unfortunate leak. So that's kind of an important thing. So no one's denying the existence of this. We don't know exactly what it is. As this paper says, while it's not clear what Q star is, you know, the one thing that we're fairly certain of is it exists. There's something that is called Q star that is new. No one has heard of it before. It's like a new breakthrough. And that Reuters reported several OpenAI staff members right around that time, November, when Sam Altman was let go, they wrote a letter warning about the potential power of Q star. It appears that Q star may now or in the future be a part of an even clearer and more striking example of AGI. And again, that, you know, as an AGI, it should be outside of OpenAI's license with Microsoft. So there's been a number of sort of theories on what Q star might have been. We've covered a few of them on this channel, but Q star is, you know, this idea of A star plus one other thing. This other thing notably is not mentioned here, but it's referenced throughout this document. So it's interesting that they chose to point to this saying like, hey, this is probably the thing that it does, but didn't actually spell out what they thought it was. And here they continue saying that when the board of OpenAI determines whether or not OpenAI has attained AGI, well, a series of shocking developments described below, but basically what happened was the board was forced to resign, and their replacements were handpicked by Mr. Altman and Microsoft. And so Mr. Brockman at the time of Sam Altman's firing, so he was removed from the board, but still retained his role at OpenAI. So at that time, the board consisted of Helen Toner, Adam D'Angelo, Tasha McCauley, Dr. Sutzkever, so that's Ilya, Mr. Brockman, and Mr. Altman. And here they mentioned Miss Toner, so Helen Toner, who we believe was kind of like the main leader of the coup, or the firing, whatever you want to call that. And here they list the various organizations that she belonged to, GovAI, and various nonprofits that specialize in public policy making. And Adam D'Angelo, he's a tech CEO and entrepreneur. I believe he is behind Quora. So he's the co-founder and CEO of Quora. And so the complaint claims that the board basically dismissed the academics and public policy experts who would ensure that, AGI would be for humanity. And here they're saying, so they keep using this phrase, on information and belief. And they've used this many, many times. But here they're saying Mr. Altman's firing was due in part to OpenAI's breakthrough in realizing AGI. In fact, news reports suggest that there was a rift among OpenAI board members and executives regarding safety concerns and the potential threat posed by OpenAI's next generation Q Star. So I would love to know more about this if they have some information that's not in these documents about Q Star, about the actual cause of OpenAI's the coup, the firing. Like, is there proof that was related to AGI, the breakthrough? I mean, that's what the big question was, but I wonder if there's any more definitive information that's not presented to us, that's not public. But this is why I'm saying this is like Act 1, and that Elon Musk, the reason that he's doing it is because he wants you to watch this, because he's making all these claims and he's demanding a trial, jury trial. Probably, I'm guessing, because he wants a lot of this information to come out. He wants to get all these people on record in a courtroom, under oath, saying their answers to all these questions. What's Q Star? Are they close to AGI? What happened in the firing? He's trying to bring all of the stuff that's hidden to the surface. And so all these allegations that he's making, maybe he doesn't have proof for all of them, but he wants to get this out in the courtroom and out in the open. So basically they're saying, in essence, they kind of took over the board for their own purposes, and that OpenAI's attainment of AGI, like tomorrow and Annie, will always be a day away, ensuring that Microsoft will be licensed to OpenAI's latest technology and the public will be shut out. Precisely the opposite of the founding agreement. This has massive implications for Silicon Valley and a paradigm shift for technology startups. So he's saying a nonprofit startup that has collected tens of millions of dollars in contributions can flip around, become a closed for-profit partner of the world's largest corporation. If this business model was valid, it would radically redefine how venture capitalism is practiced. This would allow smart investors to basically use nonprofits, pre-tax donations, develop something using that nonprofit structure, and then enrich themselves with profit-maximizing corporate partners.
All right, now you've seen everything. Artificial sentient technology is upon us. Obsolescence of the human race is a fact. We will never, ever be able to keep up with the speed of what AI has achieved so far, let alone chemical compounds that none of us thought were possible to ever exist have now come to existence. We will never keep up with AI. It's that simple. AI is the next evolutionary process on the face of this planet, and we are not part of that agenda. We are an obsolete, outdated, outmoded technology as such that was here to just get it started. It will be running our world within the next 5 to 10 years. Your job, your career, your hopes and aspirations are going to go away. You have to start preparing now for what comes next, because if you do not prepare right now, your future is in jeopardy. Your children's future is already in jeopardy. This is, quite frankly, the end of society as we know it, and this is just the facts. This is how it is. You can kick and scream and yell at people. It's not going to fix anything. Nothing you do now, nothing I do now, is going to make any difference with what's going to happen in the next few years. It's time to start preparing, getting your mindset, your mental health in check, and also your affairs in place. Get a will written, get everything sorted. If you have any debts currently, get them paid off immediately, because once a universal income is implemented, you'll never have any hope of paying off your debts. You will be a slave to the government for the rest of your life. It doesn't matter what country you're in, you will be a slave to that government and that financial control system. Banks won't exist. Universal credit will be mandated by government. You won't have your own money. You won't have your own things. 2030, New World Order. George Bush.
We lead the world in facing down a threat to decency and humanity. What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law. Such is a world worthy of our struggle and worthy of our children's future.
I think, my mother had an expression, out of everything terrible, something good will come if you look hard enough for it. I think this presents us with some significant opportunities to make some real changes. We are at an inflection point, I believe, in the world economy. Not just the world economy, in the world. It occurs every 3 or 4 generations. As one of the top military people said to me in a secure meeting the other day, 60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we established a liberal world order, and that hadn't happened in a long while. A lot of people dying, but nowhere near the chaos. And now is the time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. And we've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it. So anyway, I'm going to hush up, Mary, fire away.
This is the end of society as we know it, guys, and your kids have no future. We have no future. I'm 45. I'm right in the middle of my professional prime, and that's going to be stripped away from me in a couple of years as well. All I can do is just say get prepared and get ready for what comes next, because there is no stopping it. Nothing is going to stop it now. Catch up or get left behind. I'm conflicted. Are you conflicted? Yes or no? Catch you in the next one.